So in the most recent reveal trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we saw a bunch of things in the trailer. We saw the legendaries, everybody went wow, and then at the very end, we had this little 5-second post-credits scene almost, and I haven't seen too many people discussing it, but I do think it raises some questions, and I think that it's fun to speculate about it. I want to talk about that today. One thing to note about it is that you see a Pokeball whooshing out of what appears to be ice or glass or crystals of some sort. And there have been people speculating about what this could mean online. One of the things to note is that at certain frames in the animation, it sort of looks like there might be a face inside the glass ice crystal nonsense. And credit for where I saw this goes to some guy on Reddit. And I think that it's sort of a cool thing to point out. Humans, of course, are inclined to see faces in just about anything. It's called pareidolia. And so I don't necessarily think this is for sure anything, because Game Freak or whoever designed this animation probably just tossed it through some kind of crystal generator, and then this is what popped out, and then people were just seeing faces in it. So does this mean anything? Probably not. But maybe it does, because that's also the age we live in, where people will hide Easter eggs and spoilers, and then you can go back 3 years from now and be like, oh, see, this was totally planned from the start. How did we not see it? And so this very well could be something. And so I decided to run with that. Face aside, I think that the ice does mean something, and I think potentially it could mean that we're going to get some kind of ice Pokemon. Probably as a legendary, and I would say even more probably that if we were going to get a legendary ice Pokemon, that it would be the Pokemon to complete the trio. Right? Ever since Gen 3, all legendaries have come in trios, and the trio for this has yet to be revealed, or the third one at least, and this could be some kind of spoiler towards that. So on that note, I wanted to use that as a base and design a third Pokemon for this trio and talk about how it would fit in. So one thing that I thought this face reminded me of would be the North Wind. The North Wind being that old man who is in a cloud and comes and blows the cold all over everything. The four winds have been traditional representations of weather and the seasons in some form or fashion, and North Wind is the one that brings winter and cold upon the land, and you might draw comparisons with this kind of face to the face that was shown in the ice. And if we use that as a template, then we can design a Pokemon. Unfortunately, I don't have great artistic skills, so I just threw something together to get the creative juices flowing for those who are more artistically inclined. And I designed this little puffball. I certainly don't think it would be this under-designed or non-intimidating looking, but, this is just, we're working with what I got. In any case, I've named this Pokemon Ahora. It's the North Wind Pokemon. It's going to be an Ice and Flying type. Ice and Flying is an interesting typing. Articuno, of course, has that typing. I don't remember, there's probably at least one other out there, but Articuno, of course, is the most common one to think of, and it's not a very good typing because it's 4 times weak to Stealth Rock. It struggles against Steel types, and it's gonna be neutral to a lot of Pokemon that flying types would like to be, like fighting types. Ice, of course, is a very bad defensive typing, and while Ice is good offensive typing and Flying is good offensive typing, the combination of the two has a lot of overlap that is unnecessary and doesn't do a lot for you. That being said, if you give this Pokemon enough tools, it actually could be extremely threatening, and you'll see what I mean here in a bit. I decided to give it the ability Snow Warning. If we look at previous legendaries, Some of them have had crazy new abilities like Necrozma and Rayquaza, but then some of the other ones just have Levitate or Pressure or really useless abilities like Aura Break. So I don't really know what kind of ability they'd give it. I don't think they'd feel compelled necessarily to give it something crazy. They didn't give anything crazy to Eternatus. I mean, it's really good for Eternatus to have Pressure, but it doesn't necessarily come out of left field like, wow, it's got this broken ability. No, it's just Pressure, it. So Snow Warning is fine. I also wanted to give a Snow Warning because we don't have a Halo setter that's able to hang in Ubers, right? You've got Tyranitar, which is a pseudo-legendary, and you've got, of course, Groudon and Kyogre, but there's nothing in Ubers to set the hail, and I figured if I'm going to have an Ice type, it could set the hail. And since the North Wind is sort of a harbinger of winter, it would make sense that it's going to have Snow Warning as an ability. Now, where does this name Ahora come from? Ahora is Spanish for now or presently. And if we consider the theming of the other two legendary Pokemon, you've got one that represents the past, one that represents the future. Well, I figure this Pokemon is going to be an Ice type. Ice does what to things? It freezes them. So this Ice type is going to freeze time. And unfortunately, the one thing my design does not include are any time elements. That would be something to address by an actual artist, an actual good designer. But this idea, this Pokemon's going to come in, it's going to be very cold enough to freeze time itself. And where is it going to freeze time? It's going to freeze it in the present. So present or now, that's Ahora in Spanish. And so then you combine that with the word for Hoar or Hoarfrost, which is little tiny ice crystals that will form. As you can see in these pictures, this would be Hoarfrost. And so I've combined those two. And you may say, oh, look, that ice looks familiar. It looks like the ice in the trailer. Well, that was, what I was going for there. So good job, me. All right. Decided to give a signature move to this little guy. He's going to be able to hit both opponents on the field if it's a double battle. And it's going to be a flying type move. Special attack, this is obviously going to be more inclined to be a special attacker. Clouds usually don't punch people. And it's going to be decently strong, 100 base power. Move Freezing Gale will lower the target's speed by 2 stages, meaning that if I want to have a really strong form of speed control, then I can just whip this out, start spamming it all over. However, it's not going to be super broken because a lot of Pokemon don't care about speed drops like Blissey, which would normally wall this in Ubers if it's a special attacker. And also, okay, you dropped my T-Tar's speed, now you're going to have to switch. I can switch as well. It's not the end of the world. And it's a lot better than freezing or doing some other shenanigans. So really, I think that's totally fine. What else do I want to say? Okay, stat line. This is the stat line. You can look at it. Nothing to write home about. Pretty strong special attacker. A little bit on the slow side, but that's fine because Freezing Gale does mitigate that by dropping your opponent's speed. And it hits the standard 680 BST, which most of these legendaries tend to hover around. So I think that's totally fair for stats. Other notable moves would include Hurricane for that single target goodness. It'll get Freeze Dry, which will be really useful to spam, and Blizzard as well. And Blizzard, of course, will synergize with the Snow Warning ability. It'll get Thunder and Thunderbolt because it is a cloud after all, and you can have Thunder and Lightning in a snowstorm. It'll get Roost, which will increase its longevity, and it will almost always be running heavy-duty boots because, it can't not run heavy-duty boots. So Roost plus boots will actually make it somewhat passable as long as it doesn't get knocked off. Giving it Aurora Veil also allows it to act as a support mon. Would it use that often? Probably not, in my opinion, but maybe. Nasty Plot would allow it to break through teams. The North Wind being sort of this strong, violent wind. It's going to heck up your village with its crazy wind and winter powers. Seems pretty nasty. So Nasty Plot seems fine. And then finally, we're not going to give it Earth Power. We're not going to give it anything great to cover Steel types, but we will give it Focus Blast, and it can have fun trying to hit that. One final thing, of course, like I said, my art, not great. I figured that the actual design would look something more like what you see here on the left, which is a traditional representation of the North Wind with that flowing mane and the blowing winds, plus maybe something here from this Kirby guy to be a floating clock cloud or something. That way he freezes time. Not exactly sure. Something like that, though. So overall, the ice at the end of the trailer only shows up for a few seconds. Does it mean anything? It doesn't have to mean anything, but I mean, they uploaded the video with this in it, and that's not going to be a mistake. If it were a mistake, they almost certainly would have taken it down, I feel. And I checked other videos. This is not some kind of send-off that they have included for all of their videos. This is specific to this video here. So it's probable that this has something to do with the games. And unless they make a new crystal or glass type Pokemon, then ice is what this means, as far as I can tell. And ice what? Well, probably an ice legendary. So that's my bet. That's what I'm calling it, even if it doesn't look like this design. I'm guessing ice type Pokemon. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I'll catch you next time.